Right, if you remember when I was taking the shaft out the middle of the Sprag clutch when I was taking it to bits, I pushed the shaft that way with a bar and then I pushed it back that way with another bar, and as I was pushing it back there was like a spacer came out. Now if you look there, it's rocking up and down. Now that spacer is that there, it's got splines on the inside that match up with the teeth on the shaft, and it runs in a little bearing inside this bit of the casing. So what I'll do is I'll just shove that back in, get it lined up with the teeth. Right, there she goes. Right, give it a waggle, spin it as it's going in. Right, and that's the, see how that Sprag clutch turns nice and freely, and then if you try it won't move the other way, lock solid, but you've got no waggle. I'm saying, can you see the Sprag clutch turn? And you can't even see the frigging Sprag clutch. But I'll zoom back out in a minute. Right, that's back, shaft's back through. The next thing on that shaft is to put this sprocket back on. So I'll get that up and into the, push the shaft back through slightly, otherwise you'll not get it in there. Once you've got it lined up, push it back and turn. Make sure you've got it lined up properly. That's it. And that's that gear back on. And the next thing with that one is to put the bolt back in that came out of the centre of it, which is goes through the middle of the gear and just winds in. I'll just push that back through. So push it back through, just make sure it hasn't moved. Just wind that all the way in. Right, hold that tight. I'll just grab my airline. A bit of a rag on there so it won't rip all the surface of my finger off. Just get that going on and and that's tight. Now, what you've got now is you can see that bit of the, tell you what, I'll grab a, right, if I try and turn that backwards, it won't move. Well, it will, I can turn it off if I force it, but it spins freely that way. And it locks, as you can see, when it goes one way, that gear there's not moving. You can see it turning, but as soon as you try and turn it the other way, it locks the Sprag clutch. Right, so that's that in. So next step is get all the clutch and everything back in. So I'll just knock you off for now and reposition you. Right, put the clutch back in. Now, when you're putting the clutch back in, you're going to put your centre bit back in first. Now, if you remember, this bit goes over your roller bearings, but with that on, you can't get your clutch basket back in. You haven't got enough room. By taking that off, it gives you just enough room to slide the gear up the side of the casing. So take that gear off for now, and then basically put your inner gear in. Now this can be quite fiddly because you need to line this gear up with your clutch basket. So you just feed your clutch basket into the casing. And this is where the fiddly bit comes in. I'll just move some stuff about so I can get this all laid out. Right, what you want to be doing is you can see through the clutch basket centre, and you want to try your best to line it up with the gears on that one on the back. Get it to go in here to start with. That's it. I'll find my torch. Right, I won't lie to you, this is quite fiddly because you've got to line all this lot up with the gear on the back behind the clutch basket, and it is quite fiddly. So what I'll do, rather than arse about on camera, because this could take a while, I'll just knock you off until I've got that through, and then I'll switch you back on. Right, I got it back in all the way. It's a fiddly arse job, I'm not going to lie about that, but it's in now anyway. So right, once you've got that in, just your thrust washer space or whatever you want to call it, that goes in next, and your big washer off the back of your clutch hub. Now you can tell which way this goes on, so you've got like a circle on the inside which runs on the back of your hub, and your marks on the back side which run against the gear and the clutch basket. So that goes on, and then there's your clutch basket, clutch hub itself. Let's put that on, line her up. Now the next thing, there's a washer that goes on, and on this washer it's like, if you imagine a bowl shape, but it's actually got out written on that outside of the washer, so out faces out. So put that on in the right direction, and then get your give this a clean up. Get your nut, and I'll just grab a bit of Loctite. Right, I'm just going to put a bit of blue on this. So I'll just put a couple of dabs inside this nut. And then we'll screw the nut back on. Right, so I'll just grab my gun. And that's your clutch hub and basket back on. So then start feeding your clutch in. I'll do this plate by plate. Right. You gotta line that up well. Obviously heat treated plates. It hasn't done a right lot of miles, this clutch. I know you replaced it not so long back. And before you put this bit on, get your clutch rod. Make sure there's no crap on it. Push your push rod back up the centre, and then line your plates up with the stubs on here. And basically, you can start putting your springs back in. Right. Clutch back in. Oh, right, knock you off for now. Right, I've put new gaskets on. Let's move this out the way. Right, and I'll put the clutch cover back on first. line it up on the dowels. Right. Right, I'll torque them up in a minute. Next, get this top cover on. Right, when you're putting the top cover on, just got to remember that there's these cable clips to go on as well. Right, get my torque wrench out. I'll just knock you off for a minute while I get my torque wrench set up. Right, I've set my torque wrench up. I've just set it up for 12 Newton meters. Plenty enough for these low bolts. Right, and that is the motor back together. So what I'll do is I'll knock you off for now. I'll get everything pieced back together, and then we'll film it again when it's ready to fire up. Okay. Right, I said it was back together and I forgot all about the alternator. Alternator, just put all your rubbers back in the drive hub. And then grab your alternator. Turn it till it lines up with the slots in the rubbers, and then basically just rattle it until it's in place. Grab your bolts. And the bottom one, as you know from before, when I took it off, it's just a little bit awkward if the wire's in the way, but obviously when you unplug it, wire's out of the way, so it's not a big issue. issue is when you get the socket stuck. That's it. And the third one, you've got to remember to put your earth strap on. Just get them nice and tight. Back up. Put your boot back over on your earth clamp. Put it back in, and then pull the boot cover back over. Shove back down in there, feed it under the clamp, cable clamp, and now that's as far as I went. You'll notice here, I think, if you can see it, this cable that's running across here is the one off the, it'll be like the crank sensor sort of thing for the coils, for the ignition. I've plugged that back in. Obviously I never did it on the other side, but it's back in now. Right, so now I'm back to the stage where I can start just firing everything back on it, so I'll knock you off now and come back when it's ready to run. Right, she's back together. Hopefully there'll be no clacky when it starts. Sweet enough. It's all, before I put it completely back together, it's had a new oil filter, new air filter, new plugs, and obviously fresh oil. But obviously the main thing was the Sprag clutch, and as you can hear now, it starts no problem with no clacking from the Sprag clutch. So, next thing I've got to do with it now, I give him a ring, the lad that owns the bike, just to let him know it was done. And he's ordering a new front tyre for it because the front tyre that's on this is a bit square. So I've got to take the front wheel off for him. So mechanically wise, you couldn't ask for a better bike. It might be 23-year-old, but it still goes like shit off a stick. Runs absolutely perfect. And once it's got a decent front tyre on it, it'll handle well as well. So that's it, up and running. Sprag clutch done, starts no problem. Job done. Cool.